Hello students, let's read the next problem. The square ABCD pre-image was dilated with the origin as the center of dilation to create the image square A prime B prime C prime D prime image. Which of the following best represents the dilation? So if you notice, there's no number in my problem right now that gives me that scale factor. Do you see that? So more than likely I'm going to need to find the scale factor. So first of all, let's see what it says. It says that ABC is my pre-image. So if you come back over here to ABC, this will be the pre-image. You guys with me? Okay. And then it says that it was dilated, right? It means that that is my pre-image, that's my original. And what happens is that it created A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime, right? So it created this square. So what do you notice? Is my square getting bigger or smaller? It got bigger, right? Okay. So what happened when the shape gets bigger? The scale factor needs to be what? Less than a 1 or more than a 1? It's going to be more than a 1. Very good. So we're going to write it down over here. If the shape or figure gets bigger, what does that mean? It means that the scale factor needs to be greater than 1. Very good. Okay, so let's write down how do I find the scale factor. So I'm going to write it down right here. So the scale factor, I'm going to find it when I compare as a ratio, remember, the image over the pre-image. Okay, I didn't write the whole word, but we get it, right? Image over pre-image. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to find some coordinates. Is that right? So I want to compare some of the coordinates. I'm going to start with A. And the coordinates for A will be 100 and 40. Very good. Now remember, this is your X and this is your Y value. What about A prime? Do I know the value for A prime, the coordinates? It's going to be 150 and 60. Very good. So now I want to compare the X's. So I'm going to circle this, right? And you got to remember who's the image, who's the pre-image, right? So the first one is what I call my pre-image. And this is my image. Very important that I know my numbers, right? Because now I'm going to write them down on my problem below so that I can compare. So I want to compare the X's. So the image is 150 and the pre-image is 100. What do I get as an answer? 1.5. Very good. That will be my scale factor for one of my numbers. Is that right? So what I want to do next is I want to compare. I'm going to choose another one. Let's choose D and D prime. Okay? So let's find the coordinates for D. D has a coordinates of 100 and 100, and D prime has 150 and 150. So if you notice on these coordinates, it's exactly the coordinates that I have for A on the X value. So it's not really going to help me too much, right? Because I'm going to get exactly the same answer. What about if then I'm going to come back up here and I do the y values then. Let's do the y values, right? So I'm going to still compare the image over the pre-image. And that's still my scale factor, right? So who's my image? 60. And my pre-image is 40. If you divide 60 divided by 40, you still get 1.5. Is that right? So who's 1.5? 1.5 is my scale factor. Is that right? So notice how not just x, but x and y, both of them give me that 1.5. Very good. So now I look at the answer choices. So it cannot be letter A because letter A has a 1.2, right? Letter B cannot be an answer because that's less than a 1. And we agree that it has to be more than a 1. So I do see C and D. So the reason why C cannot be an answer is because you are not multiplying. This one is not multiplication. And scale factor has to do with multiplying or a comparison, depending on the question, right? So notice how right here, there's your 1.5 and 1.5. So yeah, the answer should be letter D for us. We can also compare the length of my line segments, right? For example, let's look at DC. And if you notice, I'm counting by 50, right? So this will be 50, 100, 150. Very good. So this one has a measurement of 150. So DC is 150. Is that right? And I'm going to multiply 150 times the scale factor, which is 1.5. If you multiply 150 times 1.5 in the calculator, you will get 225. So 225 will be your D prime, C prime line segment. So let's go back to the figure and let's see. This is 50, 100, 150, 200. And now it doesn't go all the way to the other one. So this is 225. So there's two ways you can do it. You can go with the coordinates, but you can also do it with the length of your line segments.